I've seen some press releases from your campaign, and you've spoken a lot about your opponent, Representative Lynch's votes specifically on the issue of immigration, or I don't know if we can even call it immigration anymore,
Right.
considering that, ICE has been expanded and weaponized against everyone from American citizens to permanent residents with green cards to, people who had been granted asylum. So it's like immigration, right?
Yeah.
But so I'm interested in hearing you talk more about, first off, your what you think we should be doing immigration law-wise,
Yep.
But also what you imagine a congressman's role is when you're not the party in power. Watching these things be implemented against your will, right? How on the spectrum of take the right votes and say the right things to risk arrest and potential imprisonment or indictment, like Representative LaMonica McIver is being has been indicted and is being attacked through the legal process for standing up more actively for immigrants and other people targeted by ICE. Where do you see your role in that?
No, great. And I love how you frame it too, right? Because there is the question of immigration reform, and which is so important. Like, we need that. Everybody knows we need that, right? We need a system that works much better, that has a pathway to citizenship for people who have been in this country for a long time, that strengthens, security at the border where appropriate, but is humane and thoughtful and well-resourced, right? And that is what Democrats are offering. That's what I think we need in this country. It's sort of this bipartisan consensus, but there are Republicans that are weaponizing that issue for political gain, that are using ICE to disrupt communities and to terrorize populations and to even terrorize citizens of this country, right? That aren't even really subject to immigration enforcement. That is what we need to be very clear that we are against, that we are standing up against, that we are standing up to, and we're fighting for people's rights, the right to basic due process, right? So you're not being shipped off in a plane to El Salvador or something. That is what they're attacking, and that's what we need to be crystal clear that we are not okay with. And people get that, I think. It's not that we don't want to fix things, it's that we need to make sure that our rights are being protected. Now, that is the basis for my criticism of the incumbent, Congressman Lynch, who voted with the Republicans in January on the Lake and Riley bill, which you might know handed the administration more authority to conduct this deportation campaign, continues to vote on Marjorie Taylor Greene immigration bills, and he joins the Republicans in voting for these, and he abandons most of the Democratic caucus. And to me, I think that I think it comes out of maybe this confusion. It's not about immigration reform. Those bills are Republican messaging bills that are designed to terrorize populations, make it difficult for people to live their lives, and for them to win elections. That's what they're trying to get at. It's not about getting a bipartisan consensus for reform, which is where I think we need to be. So when he takes those votes, I just strenuously disagree. I think it is a misunderstanding of the moment we're in and the threat that the administration's immigration policy poses right now.
Where do you see the role of a congressperson in standing up to that?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's not joining the Republicans to do this stuff. That's job number one, right? I mean,
that should be the low-hanging fruit.
In both of those instances, Congressman Lynch was the only member of the Massachusetts delegation to abandon the Democrats and vote the Republicans on this. So that's just the wrong way of doing it. So in a way, your question is easy, because I would not do that. Now, and then what do you do when you're in opposition, right? What should the Democrats be doing right now to show that they're standing up for people and to actually fight for people? I mean, you got to get in there and get messy. You got to get loud. You got to show up. The congressperson from New Jersey, right? You do have to sometimes risk getting in the way. We see what Senator Padilla did in California, right?
Absolutely.
At the press conference. We need to be out there. We need to be gumming up the works, and we need to do that and show people what our alternative is, right? What a humane immigration reform policy could look like. What a serious bipartisan consensus-driven approach to that issue could look like, where we center our values and we respect human beings. So that's the job. I'm not sure that a lot of the Democrats in DC are doing a great job of executing at that, but that's where we need to be taking this. And look, I'm hopeful that come 2026, 2027, we're back in the majority in the Congress too.
Give you a sense of where I come from on this issue, because I had the opportunity some years ago when he was running for president to very briefly ask a question of Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado,
great
because
guy. Yeah.
my wife's family's from New Hampshire, and we were visiting New Hampshire, and they were like, "Oh, hey, all the presidential candidates are here in New Hampshire," and Mike Bennet was speaking at some library, and so we went down. And he did a lot of talking about the failed immigration reform bill last Trump presidency around.
Yep.
And was talking both about the good things in the bill that should have been passed. He was making a point about sort of the Republican hypocrisy on the issue of immigration, saying, hey, we did all this stuff in that bill, and he wanted the campaign issue more than he wanted the
actual result.
Border funding and whatever. But it bothered me that he, sort of waxed rhapsodic about the border funding, the funding for better border control, and all of this, because I come from a background. My family is Jewish on both sides. My great-grandfather tried to immigrate to the United States, was turned away, went back to Germany, and was murdered. His ex-wife, my great-grandmother, she and her sister, they lived in a part of Germany that was near the Dutch border. And at some point, and the borders back then were on the more porous side, and people used to, they'd stop you if you looked like you were really going somewhere. But people were constantly, they'd go over to the park in Holland for or in the Netherlands for a picnic or whatever. And so one day, my great-grandmother and her sister packed their picnic baskets on their bicycles, just wore their summer dresses, put some of the family silver underneath their sandwiches, rode their bikes into Holland, and never came back.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so, and my father still has the little Kiddush cups that were part of that family silver set, because they didn't have to sell all of it somehow. And so my background on this is that porous borders save lives, and having a militarized border is tantamount to sentencing people to death. I always want people to be careful about saying, we need a strong border, but we also need, pathway to citizenship. I'm like, do we need a strong border? We need a pathway to citizenship. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
How strong does a border really need to be? Why is strong the term we use for borders?
Yeah.
Is there a way to reimagine borders and our whole immigration system in a way that makes it easier to seek asylum and to get asylum? So easy to come here legally if you haven't been convicted of crimes that no one would have to come illegally.
Yeah. Well, the last part, I think that's key, is the asylum system, right? And that's really what you're describing, as someone who's a political refugee with a really genuine good faith case to come to this country. And we've historically played that role. It's been so important in our history, right? Welcoming people who have been abandoned by other countries or persecuted by other countries because of some trait or because of their belonging to an ethnic class or because they're LGBTQ, right? And that is so important, and that's what we need to make sure is preserved. And I think we need to strengthen that system. We need more asylum judges. We need more adjudicators. We need to make sure that people who fit those criteria are able to come across and find a home here, if they meet the other criteria. And I've worked on those cases, right? I've actually practiced in the asylum space, and I think it's super important. So I think that historically is the way that the safety valve, in a way, that we've used to sort of assuage people that, yes, we do have some checks about who comes into the country, but people who meet these criteria, like your grandparents obviously would have, can get in because that's important to us and it's part of our values. And we've lost that, right? And it's not functioning very well. People have lost confidence in our ability to administer it, I think. And I think we need to just really pour resources into it, fix it, and get people's confidence back.